Sandi Patty is the most awarded female vocalist in contemporary Christian music history. Yet for decades, she struggled to find her voice because of a dark secret she had locked away. When she was only 6 years old, Sandi was sexually abused by a family friend who was also a first-grade teacher. In her book, The Voice, Sandi shares how she sang to millions about God's love when she hardly believed it herself.
Well, Sandi Patty joins us now, and it's so wonderful to have you here.
So great to be here.
I knew of you before I knew you because your mom and dad and I are dear friends.
I know. It's just
but they were so proud of you.
They're just the best.
They are the best.
They
They're
have sent
people.
their love to you as well.
That's so nice, Sandi. Talk a little bit. In the book, you reveal you've talked about other personal things in your life and your journey with the Lord, and that's always so helpful to other people who are struggling when someone that's visible says, I struggle too. But in this book, you share a secret that you kept hidden for a long time of things that happened to you when you were 6 years old. Will you talk about that?
I will. You know, I was a shy kid and words were hard for me, so my voice was already quiet. But at 6 years old, sexual abuse by a female family friend entered my world, and my quiet voice suddenly became silenced. We didn't have tools to know how to process that. My parents, bless their hearts, they didn't know, signs to look for, anything like that. I never told my parents until I was about 35.
Wow.
Because you believe the lies and that you did this, you're the one who brought this on. Well, no one will believe you, you'll be in trouble.
And there's a shame factor in it all that is, there's something about shame that is so deeply wrenching that just talking about something like that's happened is painful.
Yes, our friend Sheila Walsh says, guilt is saying you did something wrong. Shame is saying you are that something wrong.
Wow.
And so, yes, I think I walked through it. Just, it's embarrassing, it's shameful. Should I have stopped it? Should I have done something different? And a 6-year-old doesn't have any of the capabilities to process any of that.
Well, plus you say in the book, and it's so true, at that point in time, we didn't have cell phones, there weren't computers, your mom and dad were out of town. At 6, you just trust that everything's gonna go well, and if it doesn't, who do you go to?
Right, because the person you is supposed to protect you, an adult, is the one who violated that. And so it's a strange sort of dance you do in your head, and I found that it was just easier to sort of stuff it all away. Yeah.
But we think we're doing that.
Exactly.
But it doesn't really work. How did what happened to you at 6 impact your life for the years that followed?
Well, I think certainly the biggest thing is my lens of what was real and true was very broken and shattered. And so I believed what was true was that I was worthless. It was my fault. If I tell, something will happen again, or no one will believe me. And if they believe me, it'll be my fault. So my default was to just, I'm a broken person. I'll just go ahead and take the blame ahead of time, because the lens with which I saw the world was shattered.
Yeah. What made you decide to bring it out now? How did you finally get the courage to say, you know what, I need to tell this?
Well, I've done a lot of work for about the last 25 or 30 years. And, this is not a story that just reveals itself and resolves itself all at once.
Right.
So I've worked with a Christian counselor, with a group of...
It's your own healing and finding wholeness again.
And in Women of Faith, the last few years with my Women of Faith journey, they invited me to speak. And so I began to share a little bit about this. But I feel like because I have grown and been encouraged by other people who've come before me, who've shared their stories that maybe aren't real pretty, that maybe if now is it my turn, is the baton to me, where I want to pass down to the next generation that you're not alone and there is hope through it.
Sometimes it's the only way you can make sense out of it. it's often the only way God can use it because you're releasing it to him with trust.
Yes.
But speaking of trust, who you begin to tell about something that's so deeply wounded you matters. How did you, what are some parameters that people can put on that?
Because yes, telling the wrong person can just add to the abuse.
Absolutely.
And so I often will say, I think the best way to begin to speak up is to begin listening.
Yeah.
And you start listening to the people around you. And you start listening to what they share about their stories. Has God been faithful? What did they learn? How are they different?
Yeah.
Those are the people that you can probably begin to identify as safe people, and you can begin there, and hopefully they can walk you.
You know, Sandi, when we're broken, we're attracted to someone, we're not usually attracted to people who are whole and healthy. You experienced that in your first marriage. And so he had his brokenness and you had your brokenness, and what happened?
You know, broken people, unfortunately, create a broken marriage.
Yeah.
And we, to this day, I mean, I talked to him last night about one of our kids. As parent, we're a lot better parent unit than we were a married unit. And sometimes when you grow, it becomes uncomfortable for people around you who are used to you one way, and all of a sudden it's like, you never said that before. Why are you saying that now? Yeah.
Well, also, can I say, in the church, divorce is kind of the unforgivable sin. You know, it's like we get painted and tainted in a way. And you know, it's not always people's business to know the private things that go on in our lives. So you went through this time of divorce. I'm sure you went through all kinds of finger pointing and labeling and all of that. And yet today, you and your husband have been married for 23 years. And you've got eight children.
When we got married, I had 4 kids. He had 3. And then we adopted our youngest one. And now we added 5 fabulous in-laws.
Wow.
And 3 grandkids.
How wonderful.
So we are a party of 18 everywhere we go.
But I know that wasn't an easy process because you were still in a place of finding some healing for yourself.
Yes.
How in the world did you blend all of that together into a small village of 18?
Yes. When we figure that out, I'll let you know. You know, it's kind of one of those things.
I see.
You know, one thing we did learn early on, and Dawn and I get a chance now to speak to blended families. Every blended family is born out of loss. Yeah. That's not good. That's not bad. It just is.
Yeah, it's reality.
And you have to just kind of accept that and grieve that, and then let that blended family begin to take its own unique shape and speak its own unique voice.
Your book titled The Voice, the subtitle is Listening for God's Voice and Finding Your Own. What advice do you give to people who are maybe struggling to come through a broken time and figure out what their voice is and how to find God in the midst of it?
Well, one of the things that was really important to me, and thankfully to the editor and publishers, at the end of every chapter, there's sort of a springboard page of questions and thoughts for that very reason. Yeah. Whether it's to journal those answers or to study with a group of women, but to just begin asking those questions. That's one of the best ways to just begin to start the conversation with yourself.
Well, I just want to say to those of you who are watching right now, if you find yourself in a place where you don't know what your voice is and you're not sure what God has to say about your situation, Sandi's new book called The Voice, Listening for God's Voice and Finding Your Own, is available wherever books are sold. You know, when somebody has walked through an experience themselves, their wisdom and advice is just rich. I suggest that you get the book, The Voice. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Terry.
How wonderful to see you again.
Likewise.
Bless you.
Thank you so much.